Hiya hustlers, welcome back to the channel. I'm Candy, one half of Candy and Kelly, although you do see me a lot more on the camera than you do Kelly. She's still alive, I promise. So welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Wild Heart Hustle Homestead. We talk things all about, let me start that again. We talk all about things homesteading, preparedness, prepping, cooking, being frugal. I'm not going to say conspiracy theories, but most people know them as conspiracy theories. You know, what is going on with this world. We'll talk a little bit about all those different things that are going on. We've done recent renovations to this property. We've done a bit of van life. We've completely been disillusioned by the corporate world and the 9 to 5 and the system as a whole, not just the corporate world, but everything that is going on in this world. And we just wanted to do something completely different with our lives. So we decided to up sticks, sold our house, moved away, about 3 hours away from all our family and friends. You know, we've bought this property outright that we've been able to use with our equity from our previous property. So we're in a different area, so the houses are a lot cheaper. We've got this place at auction. We've recently done big renovation on it, and we're just trying to live as frugal as possible and on as tight a budget as possible, because every day that we tick by is a day that we're not stuck in the system. And those that have been around for a while will know that when I do talk about being out the system, some of it may come across as hypocritical, but it doesn't intend to be that way. But I want to say we want to be as a light touch on the system as we can. So that is what we're doing. We still like the trappings of modern life. I've said that before. And those of you that are new around here, this is not about completely going off grid and getting off the system. This is about living our life and our narrative and in the way that we want to do. It's not everyone's idea of fun. It's not everyone's idea of what they want to do for the future, but it's what we do. We take parts of different things that we enjoy and we build that into our life. So it might not seem on a straight track to a lot of people that why are you doing that if you feel that, why are you saying this if you feel that. Well, you know, a lot of parts to that. One, we're not living to anyone else's narrative. We're listening to what we want to do, and we're building our life on our morals and what we believe is right. But also we're still learning. You know, we're new to this way of life. You know, we're from an urban area, worked in London for 25 years. It's been full on. We've had all the trappings of what a good job brings, and you know, long haul holidays, new cars, new house, spending money where we want it to be, what we want to do. And now we're living a completely different life. So that's where we're at. We've had a recent flurry of new subscribers, so welcome and thank you so much. And to all the OGs, we appreciate you tuning in every week, so thank you very much. Now, I still feel that I'm a little bit in limbo with what I'm chatting to you guys about, and it's not that, you know, I don't think you want to listen to what I've got to say, but I know that this whole kind of channel was really about homesteading and starting our new life and living off the land as much as we can, and starting to be sufficient in areas where we otherwise wouldn't be and we wasn't previously. But on reflection, this is essentially we're sharing our life, not just the homestead part. And there's lots of stuff that's coming up whilst we've moved to this area, and we've moved to trying different things in our life. And one of those that's kind of being quite prevalent at the moment is the preparedness side of things, and it stems from being so disillusioned with the system. And I'm not talking about, you know, being awake and not being awake, because I feel that that's disrespectful sometimes to people that don't follow the same views as what we do. But it's a real concern now, because I feel like once you notice certain things that are happening and they don't add up, and then you sort of delve into little rabbit holes and you think, I'm not too sure on that. It's like everything stands out. Like, this is a really weird example, but trust me, I find that I'm good at, you know, English, like writing and spelling and stuff like that. And if I'm reading something and there's a spelling mistake, it really jumps out and hits me, and I find it really annoying. And that's the same at the moment with stuff that's going on, because I mean, this world is going crazy, not just this country, this world, and all these things that are happening, and all these big moves that are being played by all different people, they're just jumping out at us. And I'm just thinking, that is worrying, that is coming down the line. How are we going to cope with that? How are we going to cope with that? And this is where preparedness comes in, because I can see so many different things coming down the line, not just the economy, although I do believe there is going to be kind of a financial reset and an economic collapse. But with everything else that's going on, and it's just, you might think it's just evolution and just, moving forward with technologies, and that's what you evolve as a country, and like with AI coming in and more technology and that type of stuff. But I was just thinking more along the lines of, the digital ID that's coming in, and frankly, I can't see a way out of that. I would love to sit here and say, I will not comply. That would be my dream. But I just don't understand how the average Joe, which I guess is me, like, how are we going to get away with not having the digital ID? Yes, there was a petition. Do they really take anything into account? No. They've got a narrative, they've got an idea, they've got objectives, they just push whatever it is they want to push. And, some people that I know, in the past, I've spoken to people about different things like this. Well, I've got nothing to hide, so I'm not bothered by it. Yeah, 100%. Like, I haven't got anything to hide. I'm not running like a big drug ring or a money laundering enterprise or anything like that. But do you really want every single thing checked up on and watched? And this is where I struggle to explain it from my point of view, really, because if you think about a digital ID, I've got an iPhone. I use Google Maps. So they're tracking me everywhere. They're tracking every website I go on anyway. Why is a digital ID such a big difference from that? Well, really, if you look at it, it's not. It's still going to be tracked everywhere you go, and it's going to be used for everything that you need. I would love to be able to sit here and say, I don't want to get the digital ID and I'm not going to get it, so there's nothing they can do about it. Well, one, I don't want to get it, but two, I'm going to have to get it, because recent news that has come out is like, you don't have to have it, it's not mandatory, but every time you need to use that digital ID to prove who you are, if you haven't got the digital ID, you're going to need to pay an £85 price tag for that purpose. Now, how do they come up with these prices? Two, it's absolutely ridiculous, because at the moment it's just going to be used, and they're using obviously the illegal immigration and migration and stuff like that, which they're using as another factor amongst many other things to divide us, in my opinion. We are much stronger as one, because you've got to remember, they're only the 1%. We're the majority, but what they're doing is they're just dividing us all, and they're making us all hate each other, and it's working. You can see that it's actually working, which is really, really scary. But yeah, this digital ID thing, it got me thinking of it this week, because we shop in different shops. We've got the Lidl app, which is another thing that people might seem as hypocritical, because they're tracking everything. But at this point, one of my major goals in life is to get bargains and stay on a budget with food shopping while we're in this early situation of our new life. So that's my reason for that anyway. But Kel got an email to say, connect your bank account to your Lidl Plus app, and then you don't need to tap two cards. And I mean, that's what's worrying, because the younger generation, they're born on technology. They know everything about technology, and it is part of their life, and it's there to bolster their life. They do everything on technology. So to them, and to a lot of other people, it's much easier. Just have my card, boom. A lot of people have their cards on their phone and just tap. And I know that wherever you spend your bank card, you're going to get tracked anyway, but it just feels like they're just taking it the step further to push their narrative of digital ID. And I'll be so interested to hear people out there, like, what are people's plans to escape the digital ID? And I've watched a few YouTube videos on this, actually, and I was quite surprised that a few people are saying that it's not going to come in, they're not going to get it over the line, there'll be riots and stuff like that. But I think it is going to come in, because it's like the framework and the foundations of what they want for us all going forward. And again, this is just my opinion. I'm not telling people what to think. I've got no inside knowledge or anything like that. It's just from what I'm seeing, and maybe I'm not knowledgeable. Maybe I'm just working on my instinct. I don't know, but it just seems pretty scary that all this stuff's going to come in. Everything's going to be tracked. You're going to be needing to use your digital ID. And again, they say it's not mandatory now. You're just going to need it if you have a job. But I believe that that's phase one. And then obviously you're in the digital ID system then, so they've got you for having a job, and everyone's like, well, I've got a job anyway, so I'll just have the digital ID, don't bother me. But how long before they start bringing in the carbon tax and using your digital ID for your social credit score? Because that's exactly what China have done. And, you know, because of that, there are people living on the streets because their social credit score is not good enough. How long before they start controlling what you buy in the shops? How long before they say, oh, you haven't got digital ID, so you need to go to the GP because you've got flu and you need some antibiotics. Well, yeah, that's £85, please, because you can't prove who you are with your digital ID. Okay, you need to have this operation on the NHS, which is still free, fantastic. Oh, you can't prove who you are, so you're going to need to pay the £85 for your digital ID. Right, I'm feeling great. I'm going to finally get away, you know, save that money. I'm going to go on a well-earned holiday. I've saved up for a year for my week in the sun. You haven't got your digital ID, so on top of showing your passport, you do need to show digital ID as well, so that's going to be an extra £85. Oh, you're a family of 6. Yes, that's an extra £85 per person. Thank you. Like, I'm just like literally baffled by it, because I think when you're a bit into preparedness, you want all this stuff to happen because you want to be like, yes, I can use all my preps, I can do this, I can do that. Actually, I'm not one of those people. I want to be prepared in the background, but I don't actually want any of this stuff to happen. And that was just on the, so yeah, just where all that ramble come from, was just from the Lidl app. But I mean, how often is that going to happen with all other apps? And if you do a bit of research into the digital ID, and it's like, it says that the company that have providing the framework for the digital ID and the infrastructure, they've partnered with other big companies and stuff. Of course they have, because it's gonna end up, mark my words, I don't know how long it's gonna take. Hopefully I'm not around by then, but I very much think I will be. It's gonna be linked up to everything. All your shopping, your GP, your holidays. Before we know it, pay per mile will be coming in, and you'll need digital ID to get your car MOT'd. And I just think it's really scary. But the one thing that is scary, is the most scary to me, is I don't know why they are doing it. I know they want to control us, but I mean, they're rich, powerful people, whoever these people are. I don't know who I was going to say Illuminati then, but I don't know. I don't know who these people are. It's not the government. The government are being told what to do. So they've got their agenda, they've got their objectives, they've got a hit. And yeah, I just don't know. Like, I don't think I've spoken about it too much actually, but I've got a heart condition. I've got a congenital heart condition. I had a heart operation when I was 7. I was born with it. I'd say it doesn't really affect my life in any way, but every 18 months I do need to go to the hospital in London, and I'm under care of a consultant that manages all my tests, so like MRI, exercise test, ECGs, all that type of stuff, just to make sure that the operation that they did when I was 7 is still working properly, because there is a chance that I'm going to need that operation again in the future, but everything is fine at the moment. What happens if I was to decide that I didn't want the digital ID, and then at some point down the line they say you can't use the NHS if you don't have a digital ID? Because I'm absolutely certain that the digital ID is going to be connected to your NHS app, which is the NHS app that they rolled out and made pretty much not mandatory, but they was a big push on that during COVID, that everyone could have that. So then everyone downloads that, and then everyone's got all the COVID details. And so I do think that the pandemic was actually put in place ready for all this, because it gets you used to different variations of control, different levels of control. I mean, Kel and I were saying, obviously we're not far off Christmas now. I know we've got Halloween still, but I love Christmas, but we're not far off Christmas. And I remember one Christmas during lockdown where we were like, no, they're not going to lock us in. They're not going to lock us in for Christmas. And I was speaking to a family, one of my cousins, and they were like, no, they're not going to lock us in. I went, I think they're going to lock us in. And literally 12 o'clock that day, they'd done the thing. This was Christmas Eve, or the day before Christmas Eve, or something like that. Yeah, we're going to be locking you in for Christmas. Like, and when you actually think back on it, like, what the hell? Like, what was we actually thinking? And I remember that, again, my cousin, you can tell we're really close. Kel and I went and met my cousin and her family, and we went for a walk because you was allowed to go out for a walk then. And then we was like, oh my God, we're in the wrong postcode. We're not allowed. And it's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing when you think about it. And it's like, I think people that say we've got nothing to hide, that's great. I'm sure 90% of the, well, I don't know, that might even be stretching it a bit, but I'm sure a lot of people have got nothing to hide. I mean, us included. Absolutely nothing to hide. We're not doing anything wrong. We're following all the rules. Maybe we're bending them a little bit to live our life off grid and do what we want to do. Not bending the rules, but bending the narrative. But I don't think that matters. I think we've just got to be strong. And I think even being strong and pushing against the digital ID is not going to make any difference. And it is so scary how they're going to connect. They're going to connect all the dots. They're going to have all these little bits in place. And then they're going to connect the dots. And then it's going to be one big system that's going to control everything. And then I believe there's going to be the CBDC, which is the central bank digital currency. Now, I know I'm getting really deep now, going into all these conspiracies that I believe in. But if you do your research and you read up on some of these things, there's a lot of stuff that's coming down the line from now until 2030. I don't think we're going to be surprised with whatever we see, because there's going to be so much going on. And for us, again, being hypocritical, we like the trappings of modern life, and I feel like we're just going to have to roll over and take the digital ID, in my opinion, because I don't know, like, and that's why I'd be grateful if there's any comments, like, how are we going to get out of it? How is that going to happen? Because I just can't see a way that we're going to get out of it. I need the GP. Kelly's got a long-term chronic illness. Like, she needs a GP. I need a hospital every 18 months. God forbid anything happens, touch wood, in the meantime. Like, is that all going to be connected? How are they going to do that? And then I start fantasising a little bit and romanticising it, which I always do, which does help me be a bit more positive about it as well. I don't know if any of you out there have watched Handmaid's Tale, when you've got Mayday that are in the background in all these houses and they're just helping people push through. I feel like one day I'd like to be part of Mayday, and not, because it does feel like we're going a bit Handmaids, but like if there's people coming through that are going to try and take down stuff and, you know, push the agenda and stuff like that, I'd like to think I'd be there with a little package of sandwiches, send them on their way, let them have a night's sleep, stuff like that. But that's just a romanticising of it. But it's pretty scary. I mean, I'm seeming quite chirpy about it, really, aren't I? But when you actually do think about what is coming and what they're doing, I mean, it is a little bit of a concern. Well, quite a lot of a concern, really. And again, I'm just rambling on about all these different things, but I thought it'd be interesting just to see what other people's perspectives are, because we've made some big changes in our life to try and escape all of this sort of stuff, but I just feel like we're in such a web that I don't know that we're going to be able to escape what we want to escape. But we're trying to create our own little kingdom here on this homestead. I've done a lot of the home stuff, not a lot of the stead stuff, so that's why I'm using this interim period to sort of give you guys a feel of what we're about and what we like discussing in our free time, and what we do research on, and what's kind of pushing us and what's kind of propelling us into this life where we don't trust everything that's going on. Everything feels a little bit off. Do you feel that? There's just something not right. So, and then we got that email from Lidl, and I just thought, this is just a start. I'm going to have a little chat about that. But what do people think? Because I'm just sitting here, I'm quite happy, you know, just chilling, and then you get that impending doom. But I think it's important, and I've said before, yes, if you're interested in all this type of stuff, that's fantastic, because I think there needs to be more people that are alive to it and that know what's going on. But don't let it ruin your life. You know, you've still got to crack on. You know, like, we don't sit here every day and be down and depressed about things that are coming in the future. We embrace the time that we have now. We enjoy ourselves, and we get out there, and we want to put ourselves in the best possible position. And I think that's the fire that you need inside you, is to use all the negativity and use it as a positive and push on and get yourself sorted, you know, get your preps in, get a little bit of cash on your hip, get your pantry fulfilled, make sure you've got heating, all that type of stuff. This is time now, I think, for everyone to start thinking of the basics, because who knows what's around the corner. But I'm sure you're fed up with me rambling. I'm going to be doing more rambling videos, because that's just, I really enjoy doing them. And as I said, this is my weekly therapy session. So thank you all for joining me again. If you've got any comments or anything, please let us know. Hit the notification bell, and we've reached over 800 subscribers. I'm so thankful. Thank you so much, everyone. It means the world. But hustlers, I'm going to be around for a long time yet, so I will catch you on the next one. See you later.